What's up, man? Listen, y'all every day come at me with the most craziest things in my inbox, man. Listen, it is just this simple and sweet. Okay? This is as cut and dried as it can be. HBO, for years, have always had a problem with sharing money with Showtime. Either they are in control or they don't like it. That's it. That has been the format of HBO since its inception. So this is how massive a problem it has been over the years. Okay, I'm gonna tell you the true tale, because you've been lied to a lot. A lot of y'all been lied to a lot. What led to Showtime's rise and with the lightweight fights is because of the simple fact they didn't want to do business. HBO didn't want to do business with Showtime to make these smaller fights even happen. That's why you didn't see Casamayor fight Floyd. That's why you didn't see Freitas fight Floyd. That's why they didn't fight Corrales until they were able to get those fights on Showtime. You had Castillo and Corrales. You had all of these fights that could have been on HBO, that would have been on HBO, had they worked together. But they didn't, and then they got to the point where they was out of their contract with HBO, and they had to go to Showtime, and Showtime put those fights together. And that's how you got to see great matchups with Raul Marquez and what's his name? They had the great 3 fight. The 4th fight was just ridiculous. Vasquez, when they fought. This is what strengthened Showtime as the #1 boxing network. Those lightweight battles that they had. They were putting on great fights with Freitas and Barrios, and it was building a lot of excitement. But HBO, with their arrogance, could have made these fights on their network, but they blew it and dropped the ball. And once they dropped the ball, it was Showtime's treasure. Now, Floyd couldn't get those fights, and they tried to make those fights, despite what the haters are going to tell you. They wanted to make those fights, but they could never get them because Showtime, they blamed Showtime at the time, but it wasn't Showtime's fault. It was HBO. HBO wanted to control everything, and that was just basically it. They was like, well, we got our fighters, y'all do what y'all want to do. Arrogance. And the biggest fights on the scale, let's go through the truth, because HBO has spun you this BS story about how Foreman won the title and won the heavyweight championship, and this was like the stage was set for him to do it. They didn't want Foreman to win the heavyweight championship. Let's be. I'm gonna tell y'all the real truth of what happened, because that tales of Foreman and Moore, that was garbage. That was a backup fight because George Foreman was trying to get out of his contract with Bob Arum. His Foreman's team, rather, wanted to get out of their contract with Bob Arum. They had one more fight with Bob Arum, and they wanted to make a fight with Mike Tyson. It was the most promoted thing since Tyson got out of jail. The biggest fight could be made if they did Foreman and Tyson. And Tyson had just beat Peter McNeely, and it was everywhere. Tyson Foreman, it's coming. It's going to be mega. It's going to be just going through the roof. And at this time, Showtime and HBO, Don King and Bob Arum, were working together. They had a great working relationship at the time. They were doing Oscar de la Hoya. They was getting ready to put together Oscar de la Hoya and Chavez and make that fight happen. And they were going to do it on HBO. And it wasn't going to be any problems. It was going to be a great, contest. But that took time to develop. That took like a longer time than what people expected because HBO and their arrogance. They have to be the A side to the situation. They're not used to being the B side. If HBO is not the A side in the equation, you're going to have problems. So, going to the Foreman situation, Don King was like, I'm not going to try to go around Bob Arum and do this fight with you, Foreman, and cut out Bob Arum and then have my money tied up in a lawsuit and escrow, and I got to go months to get it back because Bob is going to sue you. And believe me, Bob is going to sue you. And it's like, I mean, it's loopholes to get around that, but I don't want to do that with Bob because it's going to mess up other money he got coming up. So just do your one fight obligation with Bob Arum, then let's talk about coming to the table. You know, that was the plan. So what happened was, Bob was like, okay, let's give, because this was supposed to be George Foreman's last fight. Because HBO didn't want to put him back on their network after the Alex Stewart fight. When his face got all beat up, and he's an old man getting beat up, his face looked worn for wear. They like, we can't keep putting this on. It's going to disturb the American public to see an older figure like George getting hurt in the ring. We can't let all this stuff go on. Like, it was, I think it was Alex Stewart. I might be wrong. But it was a fight before that. And they were like, you know, how is George going to, you know, keep going at this? I think it might have been the Moore fight. I mean, Tommy Morrison fight or something. And they were like, yeah, well, this is getting old. We got to put this to bed. And I think it might be Morrison. I'm going off the head, fellas. I'm not that, don't use it on internet. Going off what I know. So, when they got to making the fight with, you know, his next fight, it was his last fight with Bob. It was supposed to be his retirement fight. So they promoted it like, this is George's last fight. This is it. We're going to give you one more shot at the title. We're going to put you in the ring with Michael Moore, the new heavyweight champion of the world. Now, they knew Michael Moore would embarrass George Foreman. They knew it. HBO wanted to use that to build up Michael Moore so that they could make Michael Moore into a star, because Holyfield seemed to be fading. It wasn't the same Holyfield he was anymore. And they didn't know how long he was even going to be boxing. So they wanted to build Michael Moore into this new heavyweight superstar from the Kronk Gym and let him use Foreman name, beat him, put Foreman into retirement, and have it sent off the pastures in case Showtime did air Foreman and Tyson, it would lose some of its luster. This is how dirty they was. So the fight took place, and Moore, of course, is embarrassing him. Everything's going as planned. Tyson ended up fighting on TV against Buster Matters, but then he was supposed to fight Foreman, and that didn't happen, so he ended up fighting the winner of Bruce Seldon and Joe Hip fight, because they were waiting around for Foreman to see what was going to happen. And then once Foreman won the heavyweight title, he was a free agent. And he was the heavyweight champion of the world. Something that they didn't never foresee. And he wins it by a knockout. Now the story flips. It has happened. It has happened. George Foreman is the heavyweight champion of the world. Next thing you know, no more talk about retirement for George Foreman. Oh no, George is the heavyweight champion of the world. They spun that to gold. Now, Tyson versus Foreman never gonna happen now, because Showtime is not, HBO is not gonna make that fight with Showtime to put that together. Now they want to set terms. So, it's no surprise to me when I told y'all HBO, they're the problem, because HBO has always been a problem. This is nothing new when you see this whole situation take place. It's an ego thing. It's a race thing. It's all of it in one. They don't like the position Floyd Mayweather's in, but they got to deal with it. They don't like Al Heyman, but they have to deal with it. And the only reason they even consider doing this is to deal with Manny Pacquiao. Because when Pacquiao went over to Showtime for the one fight, in order for him to come back to HBO, they had to sign a deal through Top Rank to make sure that this don't happen again. I kept telling y'all, it's more ego and foolishness than anything in the world to keep people in the position that they're in. It's sad. It's really sad that we can't move on as people to make the fight the public really wants to see. Everybody's gonna make money, but it's ego. Now they gotta give this fight to the public. I can't even tell you what I really know, like what else I know, because I can't put that out there. But I've been dancing around it for a couple of videos. You should be able to piece this together by now.